Hello everyone, Satorn here giving you another Vicky 3 tutorial. This time it's on subsidies, why and when to use them. Let's get into it. First things first, for new players and maybe people who haven't used it before, what is subsidizing? Well, if you go underneath your politics and laws, your economic system has to allow it. Traditionalism doesn't have anything where you can subsidize except for trade centers and infrastructure. Interventionism has all buildings, so everything can be subsidized. Agrarianism, you can see here, it's all agriculture. So you can go through each one of these and see what can be definitely set up for subsidizing. And command economy is a special one where everything is subsidized. So what does that mean? Well, you can go to one of your buildings and check it out. You can go, like, for example, this textile mill, or even one that's maybe a little bit better, one that's struggling. So chemical plants, here we're in a deficiency, right? Things aren't running very well. So we could click on this button that says not subsidized. And now all of a sudden we're subsidizing it, and you can see the difference. Now, the government, we are paying a certain amount to this building, to this industry, so it could actually make sure that employment is always kept all the way to the top as best as possible. So pretty much paying for the wages. And you can see here we're actually paying the difference. So wages required to maintain full employment is 1,073 pounds. The chemical plant can pay 651. So we're going to pay the difference of 421, as well as a little bit for the inputs good subsidy. I guess we don't have quite enough, or things are so expensive that we're going to pay a little bit for that as well. And a small warning to new players. I know you're interested in subsidizing, but don't go crazy. Even on this building screen, right, you can go down, you can just subsidize everything. Don't do this, because this will have a major impact on your economy and you'll have less control over it. The nice thing is you can turn it on and off. So it's better to just do, definitely don't do it by industry like I was just doing here. If anything, when you're first starting out, go to a specific state and just do a couple buildings. Go in here and you can turn these buildings on or off or whatever, and see the impact of your economy. If you do it too much and you have too big of swings, your economy can go into a death spiral. One reason you may want to subsidize is to reduce radicals. It's not necessarily the best approach, but you still can. So you can see here the reasons why you're getting radicals is due to decreases in standard of living. So if people have jobs and aren't losing them, and you'll see that also in here, their standard of living will stay high and this number will decrease, which is really good. The same thing goes for the second reason, or the second highest, right, from being fired from buildings. So in general, if you're subsidizing, you won't be subsidizing every building, but the ones that you are, people won't be fired from them. So again, this number should drop. Also, number 4, from being fired from buildings when they had ownership shares. So again, less people being fired, this number of radicals will go down. So these sources of radicals will definitely change if you subsidize. The second reason you want to subsidize is probably to force labor or workers to a given industry that you need the output for. So a really good example is the arms industry. You want to make sure you always have enough small arms and artillery for your army. When you go and you decide to, raise and mobilize your armies, you got to make sure there's no shortage. Otherwise, they get a big penalty. So subsidizing these make a lot of sense, because in that way you always have full employment. You have a full amount of small arms and artillery, and even if the prices are low, that's okay, because you're going to be paying for those anyways. So sometimes this is probably one of the better industries to do, but you could do this in other ones as well. You could do this in other buildings that you think that you really need the output for. The third reason you may want to subsidize is that you have an industry that will have a demand, but not right away. So you can see here we have coffee, and we know that this demand is going to probably increase over time, but we don't want the fluctuation of our workforce going up and down, because this is so dirt cheap right now, right? It's the lowest, it's minus 66% the market price. So what you can do is you can either decide to downsize, but the big disadvantage here, right, is a lot of people lose their job, standard of living goes down, so really not the best choice. Here, if we have the extra money, we can subsidize, and now even more people will be employed. We'll still have the product available, and then as the demand increases and eventually this building becomes profitable, hopefully, then you can get them off of subsidization. The fourth reason you may want to subsidize is due to your production chains. And what you want to do is make sure one input good that's used by a lot of industries, so you can see here coal's used in a lot of production methods for all these different industries, is widely available and super cheap. So in this case, what we may want to do is subsidize this. So in that way, the employment here will always increase, right? And we'll attract people to this building. And we'll make sure that we're also not producing more radicals out of this building by it fluctuating back and forth. The last reason you may want to subsidize is to use command economy, and supposedly this is very strong. You guys have put it down in the comments below a few times. I haven't tried it myself, but a command economy as well as consul republic with graduated taxes is a really good combination, because pretty much what you're doing is you're having no upper strata, and you're having a large lower and middle strata, and they have pretty much all the power, and everything's being paid for, so the standard of living is really high as far as I understand. So that could be a whole nother reason to subsidize if you want to go that strategy. In summary, if you're a new player, I would use subsidies very little. Just be careful, or do it in, again, very small increments. Make sure you do it by building and you don't do it by industry, because if you do it by industry, you can definitely make some big swings in your economy, and you can get into a pretty bad shape, maybe even a death spiral. You can use it to reduce your radicals, but I think there's other ways to do that, and not necessarily the best. I would say almost in all my examples too, there was other approaches that you can take other than subsidies. It's an option, but like, for example, let's take a look at our coffee example here. It almost would be better here just to export your coffee to increase the price and the demand for your coffee. There's no reason to really have to subsidize this. You do this and this building starts to make a profit, then it's going to hire on its own and take care of it. I use subsidies when I play very, very little. And again, I use it temporarily, and very similar to what I do for trade. Even for trade here, I would do this very rarely. And then I would try to figure out how else can I increase the demand for coffee, or should I really reduce and downsize this? People will be upset for a little bit for a while, but if I don't have a big population and I need these people working somewhere else, that might be the better choice. You don't necessarily have to pay out the money and keep this going. It's nice to keep people happy, but you don't have to keep them that happy. Hit that like and subscribe and notification button if you like this type of content. It's free, and as always,
for the swarm.